Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. Yes, thank you guys for joining. We're very excited to have Bradley back from InBody to share some stuff with us on the importance of body composition tracking. So yeah, we'll go on ahead and dive in. I'm Katya. I'm one of the founders at MedBio. And yeah, we'll have Bradley run through the presentation and then we will save some time at the end for Q&A. If people want to add in the chat where they're from, if you have any questions, you can add things in the chat or in the Q&A. There's buttons at the bottom toolbar where you can put stuff in, and then we'll go through those at the end. So with that, I will
So,
pass it over to you.
hey, thanks. Also, if you have an in-body, let me know which model you have and or any other products because we've got all kinds of those. So throw those in there. Be happy to um, connect more and be able to tailor this to what you specifically have going on. But my name's Bradley. I have worked here in body for almost a decade now. And a lot of my mission in life is just to share health, wealth, love, happiness. And working here at InBody's been a great way to connect with people in healthcare and help advance uh, health in general. And through the lens of the tool, I've met a lot of great people and learned a lot of great things. So hope to share some of those things today. InBody's been a company since 1996, and our mission is to provide biomedical technology that simplifies the understanding of your health and wellness or for your patients. And we have a whole ecosystem of health assessment tools. We're most well known for the body composition analyzers, and we also have integrated solutions for blood pressure, grip strength, height stadiometers, interactive touchscreen displays. We even just came out with a balance assessment, fall risk assessment tool that also doubles as a balance training device too. So we've got all kinds of other accessories that support that. And you could find InBodies across the globe in every continent. And InBody's a great company in my experience, and we make a really good product. Everything is handmade in Korea, South Korea. One person actually makes each one of the devices, so it helps with the quality control so that every device actually has a sticker. If you have an InBody, you could look on the back of it. On the bottom, there's a silver sticker that says who made it. So that's pretty cool. I actually just went to Seoul this year in August, and I got to make one myself. It was one of the home ones, but it was cool to experience that and uh, see how the company's been able to help. But through everything that we do, we take create data that can help with a lot of different types of programs, can create meaning, and it can help control a narrative in a conversation with a patient that you want to have. When it comes to body composition, if we zoom out and we think about the eras or the timelines, we started by looking at just weight and height measurements. Insurance companies wanted the BMI to be able to assess risk. Um, Fast forward a little bit, we then started looking at how much of the body was lean mass or fat mass, with maybe things like people doing skin fold calipers or hydrostatic weighing. Then we get into the world of more today, we're seeing a lot of people using DEXA. We're thinking more muscle centric, strength training, and we're separating the lean mass into different parts. Muscle today is very popular. And I think we're entering an era of fluid dynamics where water is going to become more important. It'll become more mainstream, people talking about it. A lot of people already do, and we're kind of leading the way in that conversation, but we can look at water that's inside versus outside the cells, and the shift in that water over time can teach us a lot about the efficiency of somebody's metabolism or their disease states. And then I think maybe in 3 to 5 years, we'll start to see more of an emphasis on what we would call phase angle, which is like a cellular health and cellular integrity score. A lot of people are talking and thinking about longevity today, but the cell health is a metric that we can we can show, and there's a lot of research done on it. Right now, it's in higher risk populations, but I'll talk more about that as we go. But Health, wealth, love, happiness through the lens of the tool. I can also help you bring that to your patients and build better relationships and help people create sustainable change in their health and overall happiness. And the conversations that we have when we get data like this is we can get a better understanding of where somebody's at. We can help make better decisions, create better lives, and overall a better society. And we're not just thinking about things like muscle mass, but we're giving somebody a mirror into what's inside of them, whether they have enough muscle or they don't, to enable them to make a better decision. We're not just monitoring fluid balance, we're looking at the changes in disease states or early onsets of things, or trying to prevent those. Or even with the cell health, we're looking at vitality and longevity. And all of this together helps people become more proactive in their health care, predictive. You can personalize the care, and ultimately, the participation of the patient becomes something that we can help accelerate with measurements like this. And through the lens of it, we can impact a lot of different things within our business. We can support programs, we can support um, disease management. A lot of people are probably doing weight loss or peptides, nutrition, exercise programs, a lot of things through the lens of the tool. We can open it up and personalize the plans by having baselines, by measuring health risk, sharing those, helping people set goals, engaging the patients over time. There's a lot of people have talked about like an effect that it creates when they test their body composition. I was just at an event and I hadn't seen a person in the year. They showed up to this conference, they tested, they bought an InBody, and they came back and they said, I've gained 5 pounds of muscle and lost 20 pounds of fat. And they were just so excited. But it wasn't until they had done the test that it kind of opened up their eyes and then gave them an anchor to be able to continue to test. And that was just one of our home scales that they bought. For the business, though, it can help with our strategy. A lot of people see increases in revenue, the ability to market their business, convert people. We're building more trust and converting people into programs faster or easier. We can validate the success that people are having and or maybe not having, and be able to find new ways to help them and coach them better. And ultimately, for a business, it increases the operational efficiency to be able to get this data. And we can send the data in a lot of places. We have a couple dozen EMRs where the data can go to. But ultimately, I think for the leadership of the business and the operations, it can help increase the quality of that. So we're going to talk about some different things about improving our business, looking at the different elements of body composition. We use a form of technology that's a bioelectric impedance. So we're sending small, safe electrical currents through the body, and the body composition analyzers. When you stand on it, you're standing on 2 electrodes for each foot. You're holding on to 2 for each hand. And we send small, safe currents, and we're measuring that internal resistance at varying frequencies or depths of tissue, where some of those frequencies travel outside the cells and some of it travels inside the cells, so we can get a lot of different measurements. But when we think about muscle and um, regular assessments are key for muscle and fat, looking at, thinking about diet, lifestyle, sleep, being able to track these things over time uh, gives us that ability to impact change or make decisions. This is a look at the history graph that we show so we can see from test to test what kind of changes are happening. Having more muscle can improve our insulin sensitivity. So it's going to help regulate our blood sugar, reduce our risk for different disease states. And these are all conversations that you can have with your clients. And I'm trying to model those in a way that you'd see that we're tracking your muscle and your lean mass because we want to help you manage your blood sugar and educate you throughout the process of this and be able to show you those changes. We also show segmental measurements for lean mass, fat mass, water, and there's a great ability to see the amount of lean mass or muscle somebody has in and around their joints to be able to support themselves. So if we're thinking about risk, we can even look at risk in the distribution of the lean mass, or risk for things like sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is like a clinical term for when somebody's under-muscled. Obesity is a clinical term if you're over-fat. Sarcopenia is under-muscled. So we can show these risk factors around that as well, which could reduce somebody's risk of a fall, or that kind of depends on what kind of population you're working with. But if you're working on rehabilitation, or just overall giving somebody a better holistic care, it's really cool to see this data and be able to ask questions and get to know somebody on a deeper level that you might not understand if you didn't see the data like this. Muscle boosts mental health. That's really important. Obviously, we hear a lot about that in the media today, but confidence, self-image, being able to track those things are really important. And then extending that into a conversation about blood pressure. So our blood pressure monitors show a lot of different ways of how the blood's moving through the body, and also the oxygen demand or cardiovascular risk there for stress management. Stress is super important. Hard to measure a lot of times, but I think when we look at the shifts in the water in the body, especially intracellular waters in your bones and muscles, extracellular waters in your blood and your skin and your lymphatic system, and a lot of things that we do that stress our bodies could create more edema or more extracellular water. I've got some stories of, pharmacists who have patients that come in and they're able to identify stress to be able to meet someone where they're at. To maybe we just need to start by managing your stress before we do these other things too, to help overall. Body fat, there's different types of it. There's, subcutaneous or visceral fat. Visceral fat is the most important type. Obviously, it's internally in our visceral cavity, and it's sticking to our heart, it's sticking to our lungs, our organs, choking the organs, our metabolism, things like that. So being able to monitor that and impress that upon people is something that helps. I like to have people think about uh, maybe having a picture of visceral fat, because it's not easy for us to see the fat on the heart. If you did a Google search, you would see a picture of fat on the heart, and showing that to somebody can really make a visceral reaction for them as well. Balance between muscle and fat, and kind of just zooming out and looking at it more broadly. 2-to-1 ratio is good, and a 3-to-1 ratio is great. So in this case, on the screen, weight, skeletal muscle mass, and body fat mass, this person has a 1-to-1 ratio. So we would want 2-to-1, 2 muscle, 1 fat, or 3-to-1 would be really great. And we also show what it would take for somebody to get to a average or healthy range there in terms of the change in their composition. So it can help really set different goals for people as well and show incremental change. There we go. I do have it. There's a picture of visceral fat on the heart. And also on the left is a CT scan. So we're looking down in and around the organs, and the yellow is the visceral fat. So our measurements, like on this visceral fat level, it's showing a level 11. And this is on the 380 model. So we'd multiply this by 10, and it would be 110 centimeters squared of visceral fat in and around the organs. On our 580 or 970 models, it shows the exact measurements on the centimeters squared on an area graph. But these are great pictures that you can have showing that risk and the impact that it might have on somebody's overall health or their hormones or the efficiency of their metabolism, insulin resistance, all these types of things are parts of that conversation. Water is super important. If we were to just look at the here is weight, lean body mass, which is all your bone, muscle, and water. And then this is all of the water. So if we just look at how much water is within the lean mass, so we've gotten rid of all the body fat, and we're just saying your 88 pounds of lean mass, 64.2 pounds of that is water. In a normal case, the score would be 73.3% of somebody's lean mass would be made of water. And some of that's inside our cells, and the other of it is outside our cells in our blood, skin, lymphatic system. So we can see an overall hydration score for somebody, whether they're overhydrated, underhydrated. Really important to look at these numbers alongside of, somebody's diet, exercise, lifestyle, medications. Everybody holds and uses water differently. Gatorade actually tried to do a study where they wanted to validate this balance of intra and extracellular water, and they wanted to say, like, here's the number, but they ended up scrapping the study. They were using our product for it, but they ended up scrapping the study because everybody used water so differently. The efficiency of people's metabolism is different, whether you're an athlete or you're diabetic. You don't have the same water balance. Normally, 36 to 39% of this total water is outside your cells. And typically, if you're an athlete, like I tested, one of the first sales that I made here at InBody was to my favorite hockey team of all time, the Detroit Red Wings. And I wrote it in the contract that I was going to go out and I was going to teach them how to use it. So I show up to their training camp, and I was one of the stations and testing all these athletes, and they're all between 35.5 to 36% extracellular water. If I go to a conference and I'm testing a doctor who has diabetes, then he's probably going to be close to 39% extracellular water. Or somebody with lymphedema in the low 40s, heart failures in the mid 40s. And we show those as a percentage over here, also by segment. So hydration is really important. Monitoring the shift in the fluid is really important as well to maintain that conversation. Obviously, water is really important. It's what moves things in and out of our cells. A lot of our organs are made up of water. So we can have conversations like this to emphasize things like this, getting enough water in the cells, and talking about things like that that can help people um, stay hydrated. Eating food that has water in it is important too. Um, we talked a bit about like the edema and the water retention, where we can understand the balance of that and show those how people can meet their goals with things like that. A lot of people take GLP-1s these days, and lean mass, or people talk about muscle loss on it, and comes right back to the water. GLP-1 acts like an insulin in the bloodstream, and it's going to bind with the sugar. Sugar and water bind together, and they go into the cells. And if the GLP-1 binds with that sugar and it is taking it out of the body, then water might not be getting back into the cells. So the loss in lean mass initially comes in the loss of the water, or the efficiency, or the changes in the metabolism over time. So I was talking to somebody yesterday who said he was buying an InBody as a to mitigate his liability in his business, because he didn't want to cause any harm to people by giving them these medications. On the contrary, hormone replacements tend to put more water back in the cells, and I've heard others say that it's good to balance that out in patients as well. If we're now kind of pivoting to business, and we're starting to streamline assessments, and we're using data to make decisions, and we're building confidence and trust with our clients and improving that communication, um, we're developing our team and gaining more confidence, and we're able to start to customize programs and think more longitudinally with people. Then we can use all this data to align programs, products, services, things that we offer to get somebody into a program, and maybe cross sell or upsell them into a different offer or product. So I like to think about it like, if you had a spreadsheet. Imagine that you've got an Excel spreadsheet, and the first column is the output that you have on the InBody. Now, the second column is why that's important. So if we use muscle as an example, skeletal muscle mass is important because it's my fountain of youth and it drives my metabolism. And then in the next column, think about what happens if you don't have enough of that. If I don't have enough muscle, I might, be developing sarcopenia. I might be at risk for frailty. I might, not be getting enough water in my cells or having enough energy, brain fog, whatever that is. So now we're thinking about what it is, why it's important, what happens if we don't have enough. Now, in the next column, what product do you offer that could help somebody improve their muscle? The next column, what service do you offer to help somebody? So now we're developing kind of a roadmap of as I look at these outputs, what can I do to be able to help somebody understand why it's important, what is the risk if they don't have enough, and how I can help them. And then you could add another column for other people's services and products. It doesn't always have to be everything in your own business. You might not specialize in things that people need, but you might be able to have create trusted partnerships in your community to be able to refer people out. And that might also create an engine for you to grow your business together. Another thing that's pretty popular for people is being able to show people their changes. I made this the picture in the middle of kind of a before and after with a graph of the changes. That could be a really great post that you could share to show somebody's change or another thing I like to recommend is that let's say you've had an InBody and you take somebody through a journey for 6 months and they see really great positive results and you get their permission to do this but you take these result sheets with a picture and you create like a little flip book so that as somebody comes in and you want to show them this is somebody that may be closer to where you are or but this is what we've been able to show them in progress to help them along and you can create that visual and social proof is something that helps to convert sales a lot of time. And in the end, we're trying to make money in a business, and that can help. And also built into our app, we have all kinds of other features where you can share different images and things like that too. Challenges and competitions are really popular. You could even do this in a medical clinic. Let's say we got the new year coming up, and we're going to, within the first week, we want to test everybody in that wants to join the challenge. It could be a freemium offer. It might not cost anybody anything to join because they're already in a program, but we're going to do this for 3 months and the last week of March, you've got to come back in and you've got to test out. And in between that time, we're going to do a seminar or we're going to do group workout or you're going to have consultations, you're going to come in for appointments or whatever it is. What value can you put into that experience for somebody? But at the end of it, can you create a reward that's remarkable enough for somebody to want to participate in this? And ultimately, we want to create health in people. And as bad as it is, sometimes people like incentive to do that. And one of the most remarkable ones that I heard of was somebody who was so resourceful where he had airline points and he had a timeshare in Hawaii. And every year he would send a male winner and a female winner, use his airline points and his timeshare, and he'd send them to Hawaii. So the barrier for somebody to get in, I think it was $100, $200. It wasn't much, but this was basically his biggest marketing drive of the year. He didn't do much other marketing because he would put this out there and he would encourage his patrons to bring others and they would join and then he would just work on the back end and how do I build enough trust to convert these people into my programs and then also think about how the community looks at this when they see you could win a trip to Hawaii. It gets a lot of attention. And he even had a year-end uh, like gala where he would bring all of his patients together and they would do, you'd eat and he would give out awards. And it was a pretty cool experience for his members to be able to go through that and build community too. A lot of people like to offer the assessment for free on the front end. The cost, like once you own an InBody, the cost to operate it is like 30 cents for the paper and the issue. But and then your time, obviously, to do it. But if you think of in the marketing sense, an ethical bribe is something that I give to you because I want your contact info or I want your time to sit down and explain to you what these results mean and connect with you and then make an offer to you. And InBody can be a great way to ethically bribe people, whether you do it with paid traffic or it's a standard offer that you make when you bundle it into a consultation. We can also create a lot of long-term value through whether it's our social media, our text messaging, our email campaigns. We can build a lot of this content. On the right here, there's a picture that says automate body composition education email campaign. So what if I had an email campaign that had 12 emails and once a month an email went out and it educated somebody on one of these components that we've been talking about, and then you layer in an offer for what you have in your business or a free assessment and a calendar link, and they can book a time to come in and do an assessment. And you can trigger that automation for any different reason. Somebody coming in to do an assessment, and you want to come back in for an assessment every 1 to 2 months. Well, now you've got them in getting content, and that could also go through text messages. And there's a lot of softwares out there that could help you automate these things. And I've even got some of this content I could give you that I've created for either too. So those are cool. Visualizing data, people really like data, and data is important these days. We want to be able to see it. So we've got it in a lot of different ways, whether it's on a dashboard for you to, as a clinician, to see all of your patients and run reports on it, or a mobile app for anybody that's tested to see their results there. And then we've got communication features back and forth between the app and the cloud software. And we even just released a interactive touchscreen display. That's the one in the middle. And it brings the results to life. A lot of people like to put these in a waiting room or a clinical room. So when somebody finishes the test, you're actually touching it and moving there. You can move the muscle mass up and you could show what would happen to the body fat. There's even built into the cloud software, there's a decision engine that you can build that would say on this, it would show it in the cloud software, so you could just use it in the software, but it also comes to life on this touchscreen where you could say if muscle mass is low, I want to show these products and services. So when you click into the muscle mass or you tap into it, your products and services would show up along the side. So, for instance, if the muscle is low and you have a PRT program, that could show up there. So you can create a title, a picture, and a description. If you got supplements, proteins, if you're doing exercise, strength training, things like that, you can make it whatever you want. But visualizing the data is pretty cool. And then what if you led seminars? Are there, can you do it inside of your own clinic, or can you go out into your community and add value in different places? Where do your customers go now? Do you have any customers that have businesses or opportunities for you to go? And what people will do is they'll take their InBodies with them and they'll have people test their body composition. And then you can educate on body composition. Then you can pivot into more value in terms of what it is that you can offer somebody. And that could be a charged offer or it could be for free. But bottom line, all of this helps increase ROI for the business in a lot of different ways, both clinically for the patients and for the revenue. We can attract new members, we can build more trust and retain people in programs longer, give a reason to engage them for them to come back in. I find that a lot of people want to know, like, what should I charge for this test? And in some cases, it's appropriate to charge. Like we have a map on our website where people come to us and they say, where can we get an InBody test? And we send them to this map. And if you own an InBody, it's free for you to show up there. And if they click on your location, it shows your business name and phone number and email. and they in your draft, and they could reach out, and that person is ready for a test. They want a test. They know what it's about. So we'd see a national average of about $50 per test. Or if somebody showed up on your website and you had the InBody on your website or body composition as a service, and that's just what they wanted, that would be great. And other people might bundle it. So instead of selling one test at 50, I might sell three at 30. And now I've got two more visits. And in the end, it's more important for somebody to see their progress, because if they want to measure it, they probably want to do something to change it. And selling just not one test, but multiple could be helpful. But in medical settings, most of the time, the test is bundled into a consultation, it's bundled into a program, and we're not nickeling and diming people for, I need to charge you for this test for you to step on and get the data, because you want the data, you need the data to be able to help them in the program. And if they're in the program, it's just a lot easier to just get the test and focus on the revenue that's coming from a program or a membership, or a package of something. But in some cases, it could be a bottom line dollar that you are charging for the test. And I would say you should think about what's your hourly rate? How long do you want to take to sit down with somebody, and just divide that? And that should probably be your rate. But then also look locally and see what else is out there, for other offers too. And a lot of times, if you kind of do some shopping around, not everybody will interpret an InBody the same way. And some people might just charge $20, but you're going in doing the test and you're getting a paper and you're leaving. So you can differentiate your business by offering a higher quality service as well and adding more value. We talked about challenges, educational seminars, and community outreach. Being able to go out into your community and generate new leads. This is a picture of the booth I set up for InBody, and some important things to highlight here. There's a table, there's a chair, there's a banner, there's the analyzer. We got the grip strength dynamometer, marketing materials, and then you need a lead capturing system. This is where that ethical bribe comes in. If you're going to show up to an event, you're going to set up a booth, you're going to do some education, you want to be able to get contact information. So we gate it and we say, you want to try it out? Yeah, everybody wants to try it out, but I need your contact info first. And then we can follow up. And that's where those follow-up campaigns might come in, that you can build to try to convert people, to come into the clinic and do their second test again. And or I would try to schedule a follow-up appointment from that moment. And if you're going out to an event like this, probably it'd be helpful to have somebody else there, maybe to facilitate the actual test and have a conversation. For me to go over the result sheet with somebody, and I'm really connecting with them, takes me like 15 minutes or so, I'd say, with another 3 to 5 minutes to do the test. So you could do this at a health fair, or any type of fitness competition. Corporations have budgets for health assessments a lot of times. We just actually spoke with a pharmacist in Texas who has a program for weight loss, and the superintendent in the school who did his weight loss program had fantastic results. And he said, I want you to come and do this to my school. And they have thousands of employees, and they're doing a test pilot right now where this pharmacist is getting $1,000 for a test of 250 teachers in the school, and they're buying two InBodies, and all the school nurses are going out doing the testing. And they had $250,000 budget sitting there waiting for somebody to come in and help impact the health of their community. A lot of athletic teams want to test and get the data, and then think about what other partnerships could you create in your community: doctors, therapists, nutritionists, gyms. Where else could you take it? I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to target different demographics, businesses. Think about your strategy around this. Market your business, create a demand and value. And here we're going to move into, we talked about bioelectric impedance. So I'm going to kind of go through the products now. We're sending those electrical currents through the body, bioelectric impedance. The older versions, there's a lot of challenges that happened with older versions of BIA, because they were using two electrodes. So they would stick one electrode on one hand and one on one foot, and they would just send one current through the body. But we advanced it to have two for each limb. So that creates a static starting point each time. And also we're only using one frequency early on, 50 kilohertz. So now we use like 550, 250, 500, 1,000, 2, 3,000. So we're getting different depths of tissue with that. And because we have the fourth limbs, we're able to segment these measurements and separate the trunk. That's the most important part because the trunk is over 50% of our mass. And for assuming the trunk's value with everything else, it can skew the data. And a lot of people out there with different devices like 3D scanners or other versions of BIA, skin fold calipers, underwater weighing, things like that. They have to use your age, your gender, a lot of times your activity level, your ethnicity. These are all variables that they also include with a measurement to get to the data where we're just reporting the raw data. That's what differentiates us. One of the bigger factors that differentiates us, and I think why a lot of people trust us. The Mayo Clinic validated us at 98.6% compared to a DEXA, which is pretty cool. And I don't know, 75% of all professional sporting teams use InBodies. The military has standardized it across all branches as the standard for measurement. Lots of major medical centers, Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, kind of the list goes on. You could look at our website. We've got a bunch on there. Uh, Preparation for the test, things that we do want to do. Um, we want to control the controllable variables. So simplifying it to, I don't want to go and work out and come do a test. I don't want to drink a bunch of water or eat food. We recommend 3 to 4 hours before a meal, but anything inside your GI tract is going to show up as extra weight in your body that would is non-conductive to what the measurements we're taking. So the more fasted you are, the better. So you go to the bathroom, that's better. We want to regulate body temperature, movement, things like that. If we can control the time of day that we're testing, that would be best for the most accurate results. But a lot of times, the fractions of difference that we would see in changes like that aren't astronomical, and it kind of just depends on what setting you're in, but what you're using it for too. Things that we wouldn't want to do. What else? Remove any type of like articles of clothing, like jackets or any excess clothing, just lightweight athletic clothing. Alcohol and caffeine are cellular dehydrants. If somebody's having a cup of coffee a day and they come and test, that's okay, but excess amounts of those within 24 hours can dehydrate the cells. We ask you to wipe your hands and your feet too. We have electrolyte tissues that we include and things like that. So our 970 model would be our flagship and has all the outputs that we have. So it gets really granular, where we get all the basic muscle fat, water scores. We get segmental scores for muscle fat, water. We go into cell health. We get scores for protein, minerals, bone mineral content, body cell mass, some more aggregate ratios. The bone and bone mineral content are not a bone density score, but they do move with bone density, where we're looking at the amount of minerals in the bone or the amount of minerals in the uh, bloodstream or outside the cells as well. So that's pretty cool. This 580 is our mid-range model. And some of the benefits to this one are where this is where we start to see all the segmental measurements. A lot of times in longevity care and functional medicine, a lot of people like this one because we can start to see segmental edema specifically for the trunk, where we might be looking at gut permeability or nutraceutical adaptations or water shifts become really important, and we get a more granular look at that one. And then the 380 is the first model that shows visceral fat and the extracellular water and edema scores for the whole body. And I think this would be a good entry level one for it's kind of a good, better, best situation. 380 is good, 580 is better, 970 would be best. But it really depends on what type of products and services do you have or do you want to move into that these outputs could help you. Going back to that chart, if we're making this chart of the different outputs and the impact it has on somebody's health, and we're aligning that with our products and services, where do you want to go? Because if you've got more outputs, then you could theoretically add more products and services to be able to support that over time. But whatever you do, when you do the test, the data goes to a cloud, it goes to an app. It also prints out a result sheet. So here's a look at what that looks like. And we're going to dive into some of these. I kind of already highlighted this one, but this is the just body composition overall. This is showing everything in total pounds. So there's not really reference ranges, but it is important to look at raw data over time and not make assumptions based on percentages. A lot of people want to know what's my body fat percentage, and that's it's the other half of your lean mass. And if you have edema, or if you eat a really salty diet and you're retaining more water, then your body fat percentage is going to go down. If you're a female and you're retaining more water because it's during your cycle, and then you come back in a month and you test again and you're not retaining that same water, then you reduced your lean mass, and that means the percentage of your fat mass increased. So if I just looked at the body fat percentage, I might be disappointed, but looking at the raw data and the numbers is really important as well. The muscle fat graph. So we're looking at weight, muscle, fat. Right in the middle here is the average for the height and gender of the person that tested. And this graph makes three shapes: C, I, or D. And it's really cool when you can see somebody morph over time. So they are a C, they become an I, and then they become a D. You would start to be able to see that, and imagine that in a flip book, right, with a patient that you've helped along that journey. BMI next to percentage body fat. A lot of people know BMI is not the most accurate indicator of your health risk, but your fat percentage could be more accurate. There are other measures for it, but we show them side by side here to kind of debunk that health risk. I mentioned the goals with the mass control. So what is it going to take for you to get to that average range over here? What is it going to take for us to get to this point? We can fill that. And then we fill fat segmentally by each arm and leg and trunk. Most importantly, that visceral fat. We also got a basal metabolic rate for this one. We use a John J. Cunningham equation. So we're using the amount of lean body mass that somebody has to determine how much energy and calories that their body is going to use in a 24-hour period of time at rest. So this could be a doorway into a nutrition conversation if you want to, I think, enter a conversation about what somebody's going to make that up of: proteins, fats, carbs, sodium, fiber, sugar. What are we going to consume in that? And then also, this is just at rest, so we'd want to consider activity as well. Segmental lean mass. So this is breaking down how much bone, muscle, water is in each arm, leg, and trunk. So the top value is total pounds, and the bottom value is a percentage. And that percentage, it's like you versus you. So do you have enough lean mass to support your weight? We want all these to be above 100%. Obviously, in the legs, the trunk, it becomes more important as we ambulate. But overall, still really great importance. And we can start to look at risk, where we would consider a significant difference between the right arm and the left arm could be 6% or greater. In the legs, 3% or greater. Or if we're looking at upper body compared to lower body, or lower body compared to trunk, 10% or greater. So significance of a difference means, like, maybe there's a risk of an injury, or maybe there's a dominant side, or maybe there is an injury that has already happened and we haven't recovered from it. But what I've found is that it gives a lot of opportunity to ask questions, to get to know somebody in a way that you wouldn't have before, without having this type of, to be able to show it. And there are some anomalies, I guess, like a bodybuilder. It's probably going to have a greater than 10% difference between their trunk and their arms, but I'm going to kind of take it case by case on those ones. History graph, so we can see those changes from test to test really easily over time. On our 380 and 580 and 970 models, you can customize what shows up here on the printout. They used to be standardized, but now you can show it. So many people wanted to see the visceral fat score there, so we can show those specific changes. This is an extracellular water divided by total body water. We talked about this where we're looking at what percentage of your water is outside your cells and your blood and your skin and your lymphatic system. So 36 to 39 is that normal range. So we can see where somebody might fall in here. And then how is that changing with different modalities of therapy that we're applying? You can even break that down into the segments of how much total water there is in those sections, as well as percentages. And then phase angle is a report we talked about with the cell health and the cell integrity. Phase angle was originally used to determine how long somebody was going to live. So we would stick an electrode to their hand and their foot, and if somebody's not alive, there's no conductivity, so there's no phase angle, it's zero. Typically, if it's 4 and lower, it means that there are more cells that are dying than regenerating. So if it was 4 today, 3 next month, 2 the month after, we're looking at the breakdown of the cellular health and cellular integrity. And the scores can go up to 10 or 15, especially in the trunk where there's more cells. But over time, this gives us the most granular and the earliest predictor of the change that's happening inside of the cells in the body. And then the 970 shows the scores here, like the protein, mineral, bone mineral content, body cell mass, other aggregate ratios. I mentioned the total body water within the fat-free mass at 73.3 being that normal score. Fat-free mass index, skeletal muscle index. This is a sarcopenia score where we add up the lean mass in the arms and the legs and divide it by the height. So similar to a BMI, height and weight. This is lean mass, appendicular lean mass, and height. What percentage of muscle is in the body? What percentage of water is in the body as well? So a lot of good indicators, and does a lot to help with our scientific approach. If you want to clinically level up, eliminate guesswork, create incentivization and commitment and customization, and even start to work with special populations. All of these outputs don't always apply to everybody. And when somebody comes in, you might not go over the whole result sheet with them the first time. We want to see data over time, and might just start simple and then build that value once we start to see those types of changes. This blood pressure monitor integrates through Bluetooth, so we get a report that shows systolic, diastolic, mean arterial pressure, pulse pressure, rate of pulse product, pulse rate, and a posture evaluation. So these are different ways of looking at pressure or oxygen demand, and you can have this print out on the result sheet next to the body composition. Height is super important. In my experience, most men overestimate their height. Most women underestimate their height. A lot of people just think their height was what it was 10 years ago, but it's the length of their body. And it tells us the change in that even tells us a lot about, different health things that are happening too. So this is a Bluetooth height stadiometer, and it connects directly to the analyzer. So you can measure height and it sends that data just like the blood pressure. And it kind of auto fills it in there for you. And don't guess, test. I was surprised that I gave a presentation at a conference and I said that, and everybody came and they wanted to test their height. It was a big hit measuring height. Grip strength is pretty cool too. We did a grip strength challenge actually at that same event where we tested everybody's grip strength and we rewarded the winners of the grip strength challenge, a male and female winner. But essentially, we're looking at how much force can you create in your hands, and that can be a great indicator of overall health. Looked at, like, if you searched on PubMed for grip strength, you'd find like 7,000 studies that include grip strength as a correlate or predictor of something. So a lot of people like to think about it as a quality metric for that lean mass or muscle. We can show the quantity of that, but it doesn't always equal the quality of that. And I find I uncover a lot of things about people just by having them squeeze and feel that. And then we can look at it. Are you weak? Are you normal? Are you strong? Where do you want to be? How can we help you get there? If you're thinking holistically about programs, then it could look something like this, where we're getting baseline measurements, and in this baseline for this patient, she came in, she was tired, she wasn't sleeping well, she wanted to get rid of this fat, and body fat percentage was high, visceral fat was high, phase angle was low, grip strength was low. So we made a plan to help her with the weight loss, maybe some hormone replacements, some supplements. And now we're going to retest. And our goal when we retest is we want the body fat to go down, the visceral fat to go down, phase angle to go up, and grip strength to go up. So we've got some key indicators for this specific patient. And then if that happens, we can understand some insights from the patient. Maybe they're having better energy, better sleep, more confidence in their strength training. And also for the business, it makes that visible. So we can see it. We get more retention, we get more buy-in. We can even upsell or cross-sell at that point. Maybe they evolve to a level where they need a new service or a product that you offer. Um, so we're able to help with that. We also have personal home solutions. These integrate through the InBody app. So if a patient had this at home and they had come in and tested in your clinic and they were testing on this at home, they can grant you access to see that data on the back end. So you could have virtual assessments, or some people just run virtual businesses, and this is something that they get their patients, and they you can connect that, go to the cloud software, and you can have a um, be able to monitor your patients remotely there. Same thing with the blood pressure. This connects with the app as well. Same integration as the home scales. And we got all kinds of other things that we do to support with an academy. Our team's pretty great, in my opinion. We try our best to help people, and um, I really like having conversations like this or with other people that are thought leaders, trying to share their tips, tricks, tools, resources to help advance the implementation and the success that people have with our system. So if you'd scan that QR code, we'll put it in the chat too, and check that out. We got that cloud software. We got a bunch of integrations with EMRs. So if you'd see yours on there, then you can integrate. Some integrations are, they'll pull the PDF of the result sheet and they'll put it in a patient file. Some of them actually take the data points and they put it in in fields on there. Our cloud software shows everything with our reference ranges, and it's still a great solution. So it kind of depends. They vary in terms of the integrations and how they do it. If you don't see your EMR on there, let me know and we'll try to make a reach and build it in there. We've had this integration for a decade with Life-Based Solutions. They've got a industry-leading nutrition coaching software where when the InBody test is done, the data goes to the platform and it creates a macro plan. And then you set a goal for the patient, and then they go to an app and they log their food, and it scores them meal by meal and day by day, 1 to 5 on the macro alignment, and then kind of a stoplight, blue, yellow, red on the quality. And then you can see that on the dashboard on the back end, and you get objective data on the food. And then every time they test again, the system will generate a report of the exact changes from test to test. And people scale nutrition businesses to hundreds of clients with like this. And they also have an integration with our home scales. So that's pretty cool. Our app is always evolving. Same with the cloud software. We're putting a lot of time and energy into making that more user friendly. We're expanding the academy into a university pretty soon, where we're going to be adding more value there. And if all of this sounds really cool to you and you want to talk to somebody on our team, and you scan that QR code, and we'll put it in the chat as well. This is a special landing page for our friends here at MedBio. We'll give you some freebies if you want to bundle together the body comp and the blood pressure, and we also have preferred pricing there for them as well. But it's kind of a look at a standard package plus the blood pressure monitor. And this month only until the 19th. That's the last day of sales for us here in 2025. Not that you have to feel pressure to purchase now at all, but we end our year on the 19th. And until then, we are going to pay the first 2 months of financing. We've got a partnership with a third party lender where um, they do 63 months at 1.99% interest. And we're paying the first 2 months. It's not deferred. We're just going to pay it. You wouldn't make a payment until February. And thank you all very much for your time and having me.
Yes, thank you, Bradley. Guys, I know we're almost at time, but any questions? There was one on here, Naomi. You might have to give me a little bit of context. I'm not
What
which
is that
banner
again?
and yeah, which I'm not sure which stats they were.
Is that talking about? Yeah, I'm not sure. It's on one of the slides, and it was like
And
20 minutes. It
we'll
was like
share out
20 minutes
the
ago.
yeah, we'll share out the slide deck and the recording of the presentation, so you'll be able to see that afterwards. And then we'll also share the link in case anyone's interested in getting an InBody.
Yeah, you take this and you have a replay of it, and the slides are attached to it, right?
Yep, yep. We'll send that out tomorrow.
Cool.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody's time today. Bradley, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Cool.
Have
All
a
right.
great
Well,
day, y'all.
we'll see everyone. We have another webinar next week on Wednesday for those that want to join on how GLP-1s are changing for next year. So it should be a good session.
Can we put the link in the chat also? Let's put a
Oh,
few
yes.
links in there if
Yep.
anybody wants those. I'm going to put the one in there for the podcast if y'all like to listen to podcasts.
Uh,
Uh, Also, if you have an InBody and you like the podcast and you want to have a chat, I'm open to
yeah.
exploring that possibility. There's a link to the podcast, and then I'm going to put my contact in there just because if anybody wants to reach me, feel free to reach out. 443.
Bradley, change the toggle so it goes to everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody. There you
Perfect.
go.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. We'll share this out with everybody.
Hi.
All right. Bye. Have a good day.